It was said to be the ultimate force of chaos, a creature so vast, so powerful, that the ancient world spoke of it with fear and reverence. A serpent of the deep, armored in scales harder than iron, whose breath could ignite the sea itself. Its name was Leviathan. Across civilizations, from the temples of Mesopotamia to the coasts of the Mediterranean, whispers of a monstrous being beneath the waves haunted humanity's oldest stories. It was the symbol of untamable power, the beast that even the gods had to conquer to bring order to creation. But what if those stories weren't just myths? What if they were fragments of something remembered, a real encounter with a creature from an ancient age? Something so massive and terrifying that its image burned itself into our collective memory? Today, we're going to trace that memory. From the oldest sacred texts to modern oceanic mysteries, from fossils of prehistoric killers to unexplained sounds rising from the ocean's depths, we'll uncover why the legend of Leviathan refuses to die. Because somewhere between myth and history, something is waiting. Welcome to the Hidden Current. And if you like history, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you never miss an episode. The earliest descriptions of Leviathan come from the Hebrew Bible, a text rooted in the desert but obsessed with the sea's unknowable power. In the book of Job, God himself speaks of this creature. He warns that no weapon can defeat it. No hook can reel it in. Its scales are like shields, sealed tightly together. Its eyes flash like the rays of dawn. And when it rises, the ocean boils beneath it. Job 41 describes it in haunting detail. Out of its mouth go flaming torches. Sparks of fire leap forth. Smoke pours from its nostrils as from a boiling pot. Its heart is hard as stone. When it rises, the mighty are afraid. This is no ordinary animal. Leviathan isn't just dangerous. It's untouchable, divine in its strength. To the ancient writers, it wasn't just a monster, it was a reminder that there are forces in this world beyond human control. For God to create something so terrifying was to prove his absolute power over chaos itself. But then the Bible does something unexpected. In the book of Psalms, Leviathan's fate changes. It says, "It was you who crushed the heads of Leviathan and gave it as food to the creatures of the desert." This isn't a creature alive anymore. It's a slain enemy, a conquered remnant of the chaos that existed before the world was ordered. The image mirrors something we find in many other ancient traditions: the chaos monster, a primordial being that must be defeated before the world can be made safe. It's a theme so ancient that scholars gave it a name, the Chauskampf, the struggle against chaos, and it appears almost everywhere. In the city of Ugarit. In what is now Syria, archaeologists unearthed clay tablets that tell the story of Lotan, a seven-headed serpent of the sea. Lotan serves the ocean god, Yam, who seeks to overthrow the heavens. The storm god Baal rises to challenge him, defeating both Yam and Lotan in a thunderous battle, lightning versus water, order versus chaos. When the dust settles, Baal reigns supreme, and Lotan sinks beneath the waves. Thousands of years later, the Hebrew text describes Leviathan with almost the same words: the fleeing serpent, the twisting serpent, the dragon that is in the sea. Coincidence? Or cultural memory passed through generations, from Canaanite temples to Israelite scripture, until the old serpent simply took on a new name, Leviathan. But that's just the beginning. because as the myth spread across borders, the same story appeared again in Babylon, in Egypt, in the frozen myths of the north. Every time a monstrous serpent rises from the deep, every time a god of thunder or storm must face it in battle, and every time the story ends the same way, order born from the death of chaos. It's a pattern too consistent to ignore. Either humanity shared a single ancient nightmare, or all these stories are echoes of something that once swam our world's primeval seas. And as you'll soon see, the fossil record might just support that theory.
The global serpent, from Tiamat to Jormungandr. Travel east into the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers birthed one of humanity's oldest civilizations. Here, carved into clay more than 3,000 years ago, lies a story older than the Bible, the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian tale of creation. At its center is Tiamat, the mother of oceans, the embodiment of chaos itself. Tiamat is not just a monster. She is the sea, boundless, ancient, and furious. When the younger gods rise against her authority, she unleashes her wrath. From her waters, she spawns a legion of abominations, dragons, serpents, scorpion men, and horned beasts of the deep. Her consort, Kingu, leads her army against the heavens. To stop her, the gods choose a champion, Marduk, the storm god. Armed with winds and lightning, Marduk faces Tiamat in a battle that shakes the cosmos. The waves rise to the sky, lightning splits the darkness, and in a single, fateful strike, Marduk kills her. Then, in one of mythology's most haunting images, he slices Tiamat's colossal body in half, creating heaven from one part and the earth from the other. Order is born from her destruction. And yet, the pattern is unmistakable. A raging sea beast, a divine battle, and a new world forged from chaos. It's Leviathan story, retold centuries earlier, only this time the name was Tiamat. Now move west to ancient Egypt, where the Nile River gave life to an empire obsessed with the afterlife and with what lay beneath. Each night, as the sun god Ra sailed through the underworld, his journey was threatened by a monstrous serpent named Apophis, also called Apep. Apophis wasn't a god, but a force, a living shadow, forever trying to swallow the sun and plunge creation into darkness. Every dawn was a victory, every sunset a reminder that the serpent still waited. To help Ra in his nightly struggle, Egyptian priests performed rituals of protection. They crafted wax effigies of Apophis, stabbed them with bronze knives, and burned them in sacred fires. The message was clear. Even the gods needed humanity's help to keep the serpent chained. The fight between light and darkness was endless, and it played out, quite literally, every day. But in the frozen north, the story took another form. Among the Norse, it was said that deep beneath the seas of Midgard, a serpent so enormous lay coiled around the entire world. Its name was Jormungandr, the world serpent. Born of the trickster god Loki and the giantess Angurbora, Jormungandr was cast into the ocean by Odin himself. There it grew until it encircled the globe, biting its own tail. When it finally releases that tail, the prophecy says the end of the world will begin, Ragnarok. And when that day comes, The thunder god Thor will face Jormungandr in battle. Thor will slay the beast, but he too will fall, poisoned by the serpent's venom. The sea will boil, the sky will collapse, and the earth will sink beneath the waves. A god of thunder versus a serpent of chaos. Sound familiar? From Marduk to Baal, from Ra to Thor, every culture seems to tell the same story in a different tongue. Lightning and sea, order and chaos, creator and destroyer. Even across continents that never met, the pattern persists. In India, the Vedic texts speak of Indra, the god of storms, who slays a serpent named Vitra. Vitra hoards the world's waters, choking the rivers and bringing drought. When Indra strikes him down with the thunderbolt, the waters are released and the world is reborn. And far to the east, in China, ancient tales tell of Ao Guang, the dragon king of the eastern seas, who once defied the gods and brought storms to the land. To stop him, the celestial archer Yi was sent to tame the seas. Once again, a divine warrior must battle a serpent of the waters to restore balance. It's everywhere. The universal memory of the chaos dragon, the sea serpent that threatens creation, the hero who defeats it, and the world reborn from the aftermath. For centuries, historians dismissed these stories as coincidence, simple mythic archetypes arising from humanity's shared fear of the ocean. But as archaeology advanced, the coincidences piled up. Identical phrases describing the twisting serpent, the fleeing serpent, the coiled dragon, found in cultures thousands of miles apart, separated by oceans, mountains, and millennia. How can that be? Some say these were metaphors, allegories for natural disasters. The serpent could symbolize the flooding rivers, the destructive storms, the unpredictable sea. But others have proposed something far more provocative, that these myths weren't metaphors at all, but memories, ancient memories of encounters with real creatures that dominated the oceans long before our civilizations ever rose. Creatures so massive, so unstoppable, that the people who glimpsed them could only describe them in divine terms. They became the dragons, the leviathans, the chaos serpents of human imagination. And yet, not all the stories end with the serpent's defeat. In some, it survives, imprisoned, sleeping, or waiting beneath the waves for a final reckoning. In Babylon, Tiamat's children continue to lurk in the depths. In Egypt, Apophis returns every night, reborn in darkness. And in Norse prophecy, Jormungandr bides its time until the end of the world. So if the Leviathan is real, not just a metaphor, but an echo of a prehistoric terror, then it may never have been truly destroyed, only hidden, only waiting. And as we'll see, when we look into the fossil record, that possibility begins to feel a lot less like fantasy.
Monsters of the fossil record. When Leviathan was real for centuries, Leviathan was treated as pure myth, a poetic symbol of chaos, a metaphor for the wildness of nature. But then science began to dig, and what it found was something startling: fossils of real sea monsters. Predators so large and so perfectly designed for destruction that they might have been the very inspiration for those ancient nightmares. When people first hear the name Leviathan, they often imagine a serpent, a dragon, or a whale-like monster coiling through the depths. But the fossil record gives us more than imagination. It gives us evidence of a time when Earth's oceans were ruled by creatures that could make even modern sharks look small. Let's start in the Jurassic Seas, around 160 million years ago. Here, an apex predator dominated the oceans, a creature named Liopleurodon. This was no fish, no gentle whale. Liopleurodon was a pliosaur, a marine reptile with jaws like steel traps and teeth the size of daggers. Its skull alone stretched over 2 meters, packed with conical teeth made for gripping and tearing flesh. Its body was short and muscular, driven by 4 immense flippers that could launch it toward prey with terrifying speed. Paleontologists estimate it could reach lengths of up to 8 meters, though some early claims suggested 25. Even at the lower estimate, it was more than capable of hunting other large marine reptiles, its bite pressure among the most powerful ever measured. Imagine an animal faster than an orca, heavier than a crocodile, and strong enough to crush bone. That was Liopleurodon. Now move forward in time to the late Cretaceous, about 70 million years ago. By then, another monster had taken its place at the top of the food chain, Mosasaurus. With its long tail, double-hinged jaws, and interlocking teeth, Mosasaurus was the true ruler of the prehistoric seas. It could grow more than 15 meters long, longer than a city bus, and it didn't just look terrifying. It hunted with the precision of a modern killer whale, attacking from below, crushing prey between its jaws, and tearing through the flesh with backward curved teeth that prevented escape. If you've seen Jurassic World, you've already caught a glimpse of Mosasaurus, that massive creature leaping from the water to devour a shark whole. But the reality is even more awe-inspiring. Fossils show a body built for speed, a tail, fin like a shark's, and eyes adapted for tracking movement in dark waters. It was not a mindless monster, it was an intelligent, strategic hunter. And like the Leviathan of myth, it was unstoppable. But even Mosasaurus wasn't the last of the sea's super predators. Around 12 million years ago, during the Miocene epoch, the oceans were ruled by mammals, and one of them was so fearsome, scientists named it after the biblical beast itself. In 2010, paleontologists in Peru unearthed the skull of a prehistoric whale, unlike any other. It was a close relative of the modern sperm whale, but much deadlier. They named it Leviathan Melville. Leviathan, the Hebrew word for Leviathan, and Melville in honor of Moby Dick author Herman Melville. Leviathan was an apex predator in every sense of the word. It grew up to 17 meters long, nearly the size of today's sperm whale, but with a crucial difference: it had teeth. Huge, conical teeth over 30 centimeters long, the largest known of any animal. And unlike modern sperm whales, which feed on squid, Leviathan hunted other whales. It used its enormous jaws to seize and crush prey, delivering bites powerful enough to splinter skulls. Fossil evidence shows that Leviathan lived in the same waters as another ancient giant, Megalodon, the massive prehistoric shark that could reach 20 meters in length. Imagine those two apex predators sharing the same ocean, circling each other in the blue abyss. For millions of years, the seas were ruled by monsters that would have made even the Leviathan seem real dot. And yet, what's even more intriguing is how closely these prehistoric beasts resemble the mythical descriptions. Massive, scaled or armored, sharp-toothed, dwelling in the depths. in some cases even breathing jets of water or bubbles that ancient sailors might have described as smoke. Is it really so hard to believe that our ancestors could have seen the remains of these creatures, a fossilized skull, a carcass washed ashore, a strange shadow beneath the waves, and turned them into the myth of Leviathan? When people of the Bronze Age found the fossilized vertebrae of pliosaurs, mosasaurs, they wouldn't have known what they were looking at. But imagine standing before a rock the size of a man's torso, carved into a perfect ring vertebrae that once belonged to a beast of the sea. Imagine the stories that would spread. And those stories endured. By the time the Hebrew scribes wrote of Leviathan, by the time the Ugaritic priests chanted of Lotan, by the time Egyptian magicians fought Apophis in ritual, the fossils were already there, evidence buried beneath their feet, silent and waiting to be misinterpreted as the bones of gods. Even in more recent times, when explorers brought back strange remains from distant shores, myths were reborn. When sailors found whale bones bleached white by the sun, they called them the skeletons of dragons. When massive bones emerged from cliffs in Europe, they were said to be the remains of giants slain by divine hands. And when fishermen glimpsed massive, unknown creatures in the open sea, slick, dark, and serpentine, the legend of Leviathan stirred once more. Some researchers believe this process, the fusion of real encounters, fossil discoveries, and imagination, created what we now call the Leviathan myth, that it was never entirely fictional, but rather a distorted memory of reality. And perhaps that's why the name still resonates. Because even today, when we imagine the deep, when we think of what might lie in the blackest parts of the ocean, the shape that comes to mind isn't far from those prehistoric monsters, massive, coiled, and silent, a shadow that could rise from the abyss at any moment. Leviathan might not have been a single creature. It might have been many, the ghosts of Liopleurodon, Mosasaurus, Leviathan, all remembered as one. And if these were the monsters of our planet's past, then the question becomes, what still lurks beneath the waves today?
The depths stir, modern mysteries of the deep. If Leviathan truly existed once, then perhaps its story didn't end with extinction. Perhaps it only vanished into the one place on Earth where mystery still reigns, the deep. Because while we've mapped the surface of the moon in detail, more than 90% of our own oceans remain unexplored. Vast trenches, canyons, and caverns lie untouched, hidden in perpetual darkness, deeper than any sunlight can reach. It's a world we barely understand, a world where ancient things could still be waiting. In 1997, the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, recorded something strange. Their network of hydrophones, underwater microphones designed to detect submarine activity and geological events, picked up a sound. It came from deep in the South Pacific Ocean, near the Antarctic Circle. The noise was low, rumbling, and powerful. So powerful that it was detected by sensors over 5,000 kilometers apart. Scientists called it the bloop. At first, they thought it might be the sound of shifting ice or underwater volcanoes. But when analysts compared the audio waveform to known recordings, they were shocked. The pattern didn't match tectonic activity or glacial movement. It matched a living creature. There was only one problem. To produce a sound that strong underwater, the animal responsible would have to be several times larger than a blue whale, the biggest creature on Earth. No one has ever identified its source. Officially, NOAA later suggested it might have been caused by ice fracturing deep within the ocean. But to this day, many researchers and a growing number of skeptics aren't convinced. And here's where it gets even stranger. That signal came from an area not far from a vast, unmapped region of the seafloor, a labyrinth of underwater caverns and ridges where sunlight has never reached. The same kind of place where the ancient texts said Leviathan dwelled. In the depths, in the abyss, beneath the foundations of the sea. Coincidence? Maybe, but it's not the only one. In 2011, divers exploring the Baltic Sea stumbled upon something extraordinary. At a depth of about 90 meters, their sonar detected a massive circular object, 60 meters across, sitting on the ocean floor. It looked too geometrical to be natural, flat on top, with ridged edges and symmetrical lines running across it. Surrounding rocks appeared charred, as if scorched by extreme heat. The discovery became known as the Baltic Sea Anomaly. Skeptics called it a geological formation, possibly glacial rock, but others weren't so sure. To them, the pattern looked like something that had landed or surfaced. Some theorized it was a crashed craft, others a forgotten ruin. But a few whispered a different idea. What if this wasn't a structure at all, but the shell or carapace of something once alive, now fossilized beneath the waves? Farther south, in the region between South America and Antarctica, another mystery took the internet by storm. In 2024, satellite imagery from Google Earth appeared to show a massive shape beneath the water, with what looked like eyes, a head, and a long serpentine body trailing behind it. Zooming closer revealed faint ridges, like scales. The image sparked debate online, with some insisting it was digital distortion, others claiming it was evidence of something enormous lurking under the ice. That area, known as the Drake Passage, is one of the most violent stretches of ocean on the planet. Waves can reach 30 meters high, and storms roll in with almost no warning. It's also a region with one of the highest rates of disappearances among research vessels and small craft. The ancient writers might have called it Leviathan's domain, a place where the sea itself seems alive. But even outside these remote regions, the ocean keeps revealing signs that it still hides secrets. In the Mariana Trench, the deepest known point on Earth, nearly 11,000 meters down, life persists in total darkness. Transparent creatures, bioluminescent fish, and organisms that glow like ghosts drift through the black void. Every year, scientists discover new species that no human has ever seen before. If evolution could create these, creatures that survive crushing pressure, toxic heat, and freezing cold, then who's to say it couldn't preserve something far older? Some marine biologists now speculate that large, unknown species could easily exist in the deep, beyond our reach or detection. One research paper published in Marine Biology Frontiers estimated that over 90% of large deep-sea organisms remain undiscovered. When you consider that, the idea of something ancient, something that inspired millennia of fear, doesn't seem impossible. And when we look beyond science, the sightings multiply. In the Bermuda Triangle, countless ships and aircraft have disappeared under mysterious circumstances. While most vanishings are now explained by storms, rogue waves, or human error, there are still anomalies that baffle investigators. Compasses spin, communication systems fail, and sonar readings occasionally record massive moving shapes beneath the waves, larger than any known submarine, traveling silently, without explanation. Some say it's technology. Others whisper, Leviathan. But perhaps the most chilling aspect of all isn't what's been seen, it's what's been heard. In addition to the bloop, NOAA's hydrophones have captured dozens of other unidentified sounds. Julia, train, slow down. Each with unique acoustic signatures, none matching any known animal or geological event. They echo across the abyss, sometimes for hours, as if something vast is moving in the dark, calling out across an ocean we cannot see. And while scientists continue to search for logical answers, the myths start to feel eerily prophetic. Because every time humanity dives deeper, we find something new, something strange, something that doesn't fit. We thought the deep was empty, but what if it's not? What if it's hiding something far older than us, something that's been waiting since the first city rose from the dust? Leviathan was said to dwell beneath the fountains of the deep. It was the first creature, and according to some prophecies, it will be the last. And as we send more probes, more submersibles, more cameras into that endless black, the question becomes harder to ignore. What if the myth was never about the past at all? What if it was a warning?
The last word, mystery in the depths. The oceans cover more than 2/3 of our planet, yet we've explored less than 10% of their depths. Beneath crushing pressure and eternal darkness, life thrives in ways we can barely imagine. Giant squids, glowing fish, and creatures we have yet to name hint at the secrets the deep still holds. And then there's Leviathan. Not a single creature, perhaps, but an idea, the echo of all the massive predators that once ruled the seas. Liopleurodon, Mosasaurus, Leviathan. These were real animals, terrifying in size and strength, their shadows stretching across the prehistoric oceans. It's no wonder our ancestors imagined something even greater, something eternal, lurking just beyond sight. Perhaps Leviathan belongs to the past. Perhaps it is only a story, passed down from one civilization to the next, growing with each telling. But when you stare into the black expanse of the deep ocean, when sonar signals fade into silence, and when the waves crash against the shore with raw, untamed power, it's hard not to wonder. So, after all we've seen, the ancient myths, the fossilized monsters, the unexplored depths of our oceans, the question remains, is Leviathan just a story? A nightmare from the past, or something far more real, waiting in the shadows of the deep? We may never know for sure, but one thing is certain. The ocean still holds secrets that could make even the bravest shiver. The question is, are we ready to face them? If this dive into the unknown stirred your imagination, make sure to hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss an adventure into the hidden corners of our world. And now it's your turn. What do you think? Myth, monster, or something even stranger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're ready to read them. Keep your minds open and your eyes on the waves, because in the deep, Leviathan may not be entirely gone. Until next time.